Well, hello, everybody. Heather here, and I am coming to you on the United States Election Day. Oh, yeah. Today is one of those highly charged emotional days. Well, it has been highly charged leading up to this election, hasn't it? And it will continue to be highly charged after. Who knows when this will all be over? But one of the things I wanted to drop in here to talk about is the role of self leadership in this entire thing that we're all going through. Uh, I want to talk to you about the three different elements of self leadership and how you can kind of take these components and utilize it over these next many days as you are faced with maybe people who are challenging, issues that are challenging. And sometimes you might feel like you're losing a little control, a little focus. And you want to make sure that you are maintaining your influence in the process, that you are still showing up strong, and at the same time, trying to listen a little better. Because as you know, this is a huge problem for most of us. We have a hard time listening to other people, and we are like strong in our shoes. We are not wavering in our decisions and our positions. And oftentimes this gets in the relationships of us in the way of us having strong relationships. So the three components of self leadership and how it can help us in these next few days. The first is self understanding. The second is personal growth and sustainability. And then the third is social interactions and influence. And you can see how all of these play a huge role in what we are facing, like today, especially the United States, but not even just that. I know that a lot of these elections, these election issues, and the things that we're seeing on social media spread throughout the globe. And it creates conversations, which, by the way, are healthy, but it is how we are leading ourselves in those discussions that really makes a huge difference. So, when we think about self leadership, and one of the reasons why I decided to even write this book is I was kind of, to be honest, getting sick of hearing people blame other people. Waiting for other people to give them permission to be the kind of leader they wanted to be. They always found excuses. And I was like, let's stop the insanity. It is time for us to all own the choices we make. For example, I wanted to eat that Halloween candy last night. I shouldn't have done that, right? I ate it the night before. I should have done that. I can't blame anybody else. I can't say, well, it's the candy manufacturers, it's the creators of all those things that make me do that. No, it is because I make certain choices. And so today on US election day, we are making choices. We've made choices. If we voted already, we're voting today, we're making choices. That is okay. That is our right, our privilege, and our responsibility. But one thing we don't want to do is to lose sight of who we are in the process. Oftentimes, what happens is, again, we get so emotionally charged. We get just wrapped up in the present tense, or maybe what someone else's countering opinion is, that we don't hold true to what we stand for. And so, with self leadership, when we think of that first component of self understanding, it is understanding who we are, what our own limitations are, what our fears are, understanding, being more aware of what is happening in us, around us, so that we can determine how are we going to respond to the person who's putting forward a different opinion than us. They are arguing against our current position. There are all these issues and this, again, emotions that are right now, today. You look on social media, you cannot miss someone talking down about this person or this person, this candidate or this candidate. Are you going to get involved in that kind of negativity, or are you going to just choose to leave yourself in a much better way where you say, okay, this person can have a separate opinion. We all have the right to vote. We can vote differently. We all have the right to have different opinions. With self leadership, it says we own our own us, we own our own being in front of other people. So today, I want to challenge you to be thinking about yourself when it comes to self understanding and self awareness, to hold true to what you value. If you say in the normal course of your life, besides election day, right, that I am somebody who, I'm really good about holding my emotions back. I'm really good at listening to another person. I'm really good at making sure I value a different opinion. Well, that would account today on election day, on any other day or in any other circumstance where emotions are highly charged. You want to be the person who continues to kind of hold strong to who you are, and at the same time give deference to people with differing opinions. It doesn't mean that your differences have to cause some kind of battle or dispute. You can choose to say, I'm going to be the person who's going to take the higher road, who's going to be okay if the person kind of does a light slap, because that is their choice. As a strong self leader and as someone who understands who they are and is very clear about your own strengths, your weaknesses, your biases, your limitations, your fears, you get to choose to be the person who shows up differently. You don't have to get involved with all the crud that's going back and forth. You can make different choices. As we think of that second component out of the three-pronged components of self-leadership, it is personal growth and sustainability. And so I would say today it'd be another good thing to do is to maybe listen to a podcast or read a book that's different than what you normally have. Something that maybe even charges you up. I'm recording episodes all the time on Leadership with Heart with all these different leaders who come at me with differing ideas, and they have different lived experiences. And I'm choosing to take in what I'm hearing and learn from it, and then share it from other people with other people. But I have to say, like, the reason why I've been on this journey since 2018 on that podcast is because I always knew that I could learn from these people. The learnings and the epiphanies were kind of mind-boggling, to be honest, because I would hear things from them, and then I would kind of step into their lived experience, and it would help me go, "Huh, that's how I can handle that differently next time." When we think about personal growth and sustaining that growth over time, it is being comfortable being uncomfortable. It is about being on a journey that could sometimes be a rough run. And when we think about, like, today, again, on election day, US election day, where people are standing sometimes in polar opposite positions, we have to say, can I grow from my understanding of this difference? Or am I choosing to kind of buck the system and always be like, I have to be right? Being right also does not lead you to strength of relationships, which leads me to that third point of self leadership, which is really going to be on social interactions and influence. We influence others much more when we choose to sit and understand who they are, when we decide to step outside our own filters, our own lived experiences, to take in what their life and what their viewpoints mean to them and what it could mean to us. How do we grow personally and professionally? How do we act at work, behave at work? Are we congruent? Do we say that we are one way, but we are another way? Self leadership says that we own who we are every single day. It doesn't mean that we're perfect. We strive to get better every day. And so I'm curious to know, anybody who's out there watching now, are there ways that you find, even like today, for example, election day and leading up to this point, and you know where we're going in the next few days, it's going to be an interesting time with different people at work and at home and in their communities, kind of chattering and arguing and all the things, right? How are we going to stand our ground? And have you found any times in particular that are challenging? Are there questions that are coming up maybe today or that have up to this point where you're like, how do I brace myself for these questions that really make my insides kind of get a little heated. My skin crawls sometimes when I hear another opposing view that is polar opposite of mine. How am I choosing to stand in my shoes in that regard? In my book, The Art of Self Leadership, I created it because I want us to say there are choices in everyday interactions. There are choices in every day when we wake up that we get to make. We get to make those, and we don't get to blame other people for them. And we don't get to wait for someone else to give us permission to be the people that we want to be. And so uh, I'd love to hear from any of you, even if it's not now and it's after this recording, because it's going to be recorded and out there in the world. Please do respond. I want to know, what are you doing to lead yourself more effectively? How are you understanding your own limitations? How are you helping other people understand theirs? How are you understanding who you are, what you value? How are you living those things out? How are you showing up for others who are looking to you in some way, but in a way that comes from strength, compassion, and how are you even communicating in a way that's effective with other people so that they understand that you may be different from them, but at the same time, that you want to understand who they are. It's a huge component of when we think of self leadership, when we think of what's needed right now in our world. So on today, election day, boy, uh, heated emotions aren't there? Lots of differences, differences in opinion. Um, Again, I know that I see things out there too. Are you choosing to stay in it? As we look at what we see on social, all the things that we're saying there, are we being drugged down by all of it, or are we to choosing to say, nope, I'm continuing to elevate my mindset. I am continuing to do the things that lift me up, whatever that might mean for you. That the self care that's necessary in this time. Maybe it's starting your days off with more positivity, doing things like meditation, prayer, the things that really help you embody you the best. Only you can do that, by the way. No one else is looking out for you to make sure that you stay mostly you. and that you shine. I cannot wait till you read that opening story of the book, where I talk about why I even am doing this. But the journey was like a huge epiphany. And I think that there's so much learning as we think about who we are internally. Um, I love that. I don't know who this is. It just says LinkedIn user. To answer your question, it's to stay authentic, true to myself, and be adaptable and resolute. And I think that's so amazing. Oh my gosh, whoever this is, Sharon, you can let me know who you are. That idea of remaining flexible in the moment, flexible thinking. Flexibility does not mean that you're having to come to an agreement. Oftentimes we think we have to land on agreement on all these different topics, and we do not. The idea is that if you go in with flexible thinking, it's going to help you in your relationships. It's going to help you move down the road much more effectively. If you are choosing to be stuck, I always think of it as stuck in muck, stuck in my own muck, because if you're stuck in your own thinking, you aren't then open to learning, which means you can't have the personal growth and sustainability I talk about, which means aren't going to be a strong self leader. So being authentic, true to yourself, adaptable. I love all of those things. We can say, this is what I believe. And at the same time, lean in to figure out maybe what's happening with some other people. Why do they have that view that's different from yours? Is it their lived experience? I am curious if I lean in that way. Uh, Number one, people are going to respect you more because they see you lean in and they know that you may be on a different side of things. Now, I'm going to say this too, particularly today, where things are emotionally charged and everything is just like, I would say sometimes there's only a certain amount of listening we can do. There's only a certain amount of empathy we can do. There's only a certain amount of flexibility we can have. We need, as strong self leaders, to understand our limitations. That does mean also that we understand that our limits when it comes to interacting with somebody who thinks differently than us, interacting with someone who might be polar opposite in their position than us. And so it might mean that we need to back away. We need to retreat. It doesn't mean that we have to stay in it. Someone who has that high level of self awareness knows what their limits are and how far they can go as it relates to the leaning in and listening and seeking to understand. So sometimes it's okay not to listen all the time. And it's okay not to kind of come to the center if that also means though that you stay your ground, but you have this like strength of character in the moment. I have been seeing over these last weeks so many people who I know them and I've been saying, gosh, that I'm disappointed in how they're showing up because they're not choosing to be strong self leaders. They're letting the world take them over. They're letting social media, the media take them over. And now they're not in control of who they want to be. And if you can't manage to stay in control of who you want to be, who you say you are, well, then your self leadership is waffling, isn't it? It's not strong. So if you want to stay strong, sometimes you have to retreat. Sometimes you have to say, oh, okay, enough is enough. I know it. I feel it. If I keep going further into this, it's going to be way over emotional. I'm going to say things I don't like. And and in that moment, I can't be who I am. I can't be the person who I say I want to be. So I love this philosophy of staying true to yourself, staying authentic, being adaptable, being resolute in who you are. I will be coming in and out based on issues that are happening as it relates to self leadership. If we can't learn to lead ourselves, we cannot lead other people. If we don't pour into ourselves from the personal to professional, the self care side, for understanding who we are, going deep about understanding what we are and what we represent in the world. If we aren't someone who um, can use all of that insight about who we are, what we want, what we don't want, who we want to be, and then bring that to the outside world in a way that strengthens our relationships, has positive influence on others, uplifts other people in our interactions. What are we up to in the world? So I'm hoping that today was a little helpful. I would love to hear more from you on what you're doing right now in these days today and all of these days to come, as particularly in the U.S., but I think again spilling into the world, where we are going to be faced with differing opinions. We're going to be faced with some hate. We're going to be faced with some negative charge emotions. What are you doing to stand your ground? And I don't mean in an inflexible way. I mean, who are you going to be over these next couple weeks? Who are you going to choose to show up as? Will the brand you've built for yourself, which, by the way, we all built a brand, people are always watching, will it show itself out true to form in these times now, these next few weeks? Or will you be someone who people go, ooh, that is not the person I know? You get to make the choice. Let's all just choose to make the right choice to be strong self leaders today and the next weeks to come. Take care, everybody. Bye.